Welcome to part 5 of the Philips CDI review, and in this part we will have a look at the final piece of the Unholy Triforce, Zelda's Adventure. Now I went into this with very low expectations. I mean, after all, I've just endured the horror of those other two games. Now this game was actually developed by Veritas instead of Animation Magic and was released on June 5th, 1994, about 8 months after Link: The Faces of Evil. Zelda's Adventure came out towards the end of the CDI's life cycle and had a very limited release, probably in the order of thousands, so there aren't that many people who have actually played the game. And as a result, the title sells for a considerable amount, about $200, where you can get one of Gamelon for around $50. Anyway, enough with the history, let's see the game. The game opens with a digitized cutscene of a tower on this barren mountain that zooms inward, and then we transition inside where this old man opens a scroll explaining the totally deep and engaging plot. Or maybe not. So as the story goes, Ganon has kidnapped Link and taken over Tolemac. Oh, and Tolemac is Camelot spelled backwards. Yeah, I guess they thought they were being clever there. I mean, why not use, I don't know, Hyrule? You know, the place where the Zelda universe actually takes place? Oh, whatever. And you gotta love how they spelled Ganon with 3 N's. I mean, that's just brilliant. Zelda then appears and she looks more like a character from Little House on the Prairie than a princess. I mean, doesn't she look so innocent? So, yeah, this unimposing individual is going to save the world. So the game starts and it has a top-down view, kind of like the original Zelda. Our hero starts off unarmed, so we move on to the next screen. Okay, that took a while. Well, there's our first weapon, and it's dangerous to go alone, so we'd better take it. Alright, got it, let's go. Wow, that took ridiculously long to load. My initial impressions of the game were not good. Here you have these digitized graphics, kind of like in Mortal Kombat, which in of itself isn't a bad thing, but it gets worse. There's no overworld music, just the sounds of nature, which, in some parts, kind of reminds me of the jungle in Metal Gear Solid 3. And the frame rate just sucks and causes the animation of anything that moves to appear jerky and abrupt, and doesn't flow smoothly or look natural. And what is with this lag time between screens? That is outrageous! It's like pausing the game every 5 seconds or however long it takes to move from screen to screen. Also, all sound stops during the 4 or 5 seconds it takes to complete a screen transition, which really sucks because some of these dungeons have some really nice tracks that get interrupted when you go from room to room. I mean, just listen. That's like driving to work and listening to your favorite CD while riding with somebody who keeps pausing it every 5 seconds. This absurd load time alone will kill the game for some people. And as for me, well, I had to put up with this nonsense to the bitter end. The voice acting is atrocious, and half the time you can't even understand what they're saying.
Fate works in the light or dark, for princesses or fools. In my
What? And other times, it's just plain horrible. I mean, just listen.
I am a Gwanda. I dam up the streams. I draw the water underground. I gather up even the droplets of dew and deny them to my enemies.
Good God, just shut up! Overall, the presentation just sucks. Aside from the half-decent graphics and some really nice tracks, it really doesn't have much else going for it. Zelda's Adventure did not put its best foot forward, and I was not optimistic about playing this to the bitter end. So what about the gameplay? Well, to be honest, Zelda's Adventure actually does quite well here. You start off in an overworld and you go around looking for dungeons, and along the way you encounter enemies who drop rupees and hearts. Yes, you actually get hearts, unlike those other two pieces of garbage. Oh, and I almost forgot. You also get a recovery time. You use rupees to buy weapons and items, and there are some weapons that consume rupees, kind of like the arrow in Zelda 1. Inside of dungeons, you go from room to room, trying to make your way to the boss. And each dungeon has a theme that makes it unique, like there's an air dungeon, a water dungeon, a fire dungeon, and so on. The dungeons themselves are straightforward, with a few easy puzzles here and there, and without a lot of the backtracking, as you don't have to bother with keys or unlocking doors. You get maps and compasses, just like the first game, and the bosses are more challenging than the other two CDI games. After you defeat each boss, you acquire a celestial sign, similar to collecting pieces of the Triforce. As you progress through the game, you acquire more weapons and items that allow you to fight stronger enemies and travel to new places. After you beat dungeons, you acquire more hearts and become stronger, and yeah, you actually get decent heart upgrades here, unlike in Wand of Gamelon where you don't get any new hearts until you're halfway through the game. I mean, it plays like a Zelda game. There are a few annoyances. Zelda's wand has a weird attack range, which sometimes causes you to take some cheap hits. In addition, some openings are hard to find because they blend into the environment and are very inconspicuous. The menu is also convoluted and overly cumbersome to use, and I never really liked having to select money as an item so I could buy something, and the constant switching between items can be quite tedious. But beyond that, there's really not much else to complain about. And as I continued with the game, something started to happen. I actually began to like this game. I mean, it really isn't that bad. It's a lot like the original Zelda, or A Link to the Past, and those games were awesome. Sure, this is a poor man's version of Zelda, and don't get me wrong, I'd rather play the original, but Zelda's Adventure's gameplay is solid. If you can get over the ridiculous lag time between screens, you can enjoy this game. This could have been a sequel to the original Zelda. This game actually had a lot of potential, and with a bit of fine-tuning, this could have been a great game. Just ditch the voice acting and use text, employ animated graphics instead of this digitized crap, and create a more traditional control and menu scheme, all which are well within the system's capabilities. And I think we would have had a good Zelda game on the CDI. So after you complete the fire dungeon, you fight Ganon, who is a real disappointment. All he does is manifest randomly on the screen and shoot energy balls downward. All you have to do to defeat him is walk around and hit him repeatedly, and then you've won. You then see Zelda and Link together, and then the game is over. Well, that about wraps up this review. I'm going to go ahead and close out this video with these final comments. Overall, I felt that Zelda's Adventure was kind of decent. There were some issues that held it back, but overall, it really doesn't deserve to be classed with the likes of Deadly Towers, Action 52, or Zelda the Wand of Gamelon. And at the end of the day, it really isn't that bad. But even with that said, it's still a tragedy because we really could have had a great Zelda game on the CDI. But because Philips wanted to show off, that didn't happen. That concludes this presentation. Join us next time for part 6 as we have a look at Hotel Mario.